The World Series returns to Atlanta for the first time in 22 years tonight, and Georgia Republicans are pouncing on the moment. Republican Governor Brian Kemp and others are taking swings at Major League Baseball. Their grievance stems from the league's decision earlier this year to pull the All-Star game out of Atlanta over the state's restrictive voting law. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports some members of the state GOP are calling the Braves' success this season, quote, sweet revenge and glorious karmic justice. Greg Bluestein wrote that report and joins me now. He's a political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and an Atlanta native, most importantly. Hi, Greg. Great to see you. So it wasn't just Republicans who were upset with MLB's decision to move the game. Remind us of the pressure the league faced at the time and the local reaction to it.
Yeah, that's a very good point to make, because at the time, even President Joe Biden was calling for baseball to basically boycott Atlanta and to move the All-Star game from Atlanta to anywhere else. There was pressure from players who were saying they might not play the game if it was held in Atlanta. But locally, Democrats from Stacey Abrams on down were urging baseball not to quit Atlanta, instead to focus their fight on expanding voting rights rather than leaving the city. Republicans, meanwhile, when the league did decide to move, used it as a rallying cry to motivate their base, saying that the game was stolen from Atlanta and that it cost small business owners and others all sorts of untold economic impact because of baseball's bad decision in their view.
And so, Greg, tell us what is in this new election law exactly, and why did Republicans make these changes despite no evidence of widespread fraud in 2020?
Well, that's a good point, because these changes were motivated by the Republican base that even though there is no evidence whatsoever of any sort of rampant irregularities or widespread fraud, the base was demanding some sort of change. And so Republican lawmakers, even some acknowledged there was no problem, said they felt like they had to do something. So these changes were broad. I mean, this is a dozens-long page bill that rewrites Georgia's election codes. It includes new ID requirements, voter ID requirements for people casting absentee ballots, new limits on absentee ballot drop boxes, and most importantly, in my view, it gives the Republican-controlled legislature vast oversight over local elections and can even step in some cases if lawmakers feel like local elections are not being operated, in their view, the way it should be. And it also limits how outside groups can offer water and food to people waiting in long lines.
Pretty sweeping changes. So MLB's decision then to pull the All-Star game from Atlanta stemmed from this, but created national controversy. How have other big-time brands in the state reacted to the law?
Yeah, some kept quiet, some stayed out of politics, and others did not. Coca-Cola and Delta were the two biggies. They are iconic Atlanta brands, mainstays in the Fortune 500, and they both came out against these changes to the degree that it infuriated local Republican lawmakers who often, control tax breaks and other incentives that those companies want. So there was talk of depriving Delta of a jet fuel tax break right after Delta made its decision to come out against this law. And this is unheard of in Atlanta, but Republican lawmakers actually took to drinking Pepsi in public in front of TV cameras to show their frustration with Coca-Cola.
Oh, the scandal. So, Greg, President Trump did call for a boycott of baseball after MLB moved the All-Star game, but now he's expected to be at tomorrow's matchup in Atlanta. So what do we know about his plans?
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty hairy situation because he's planning to go to Game 4 tomorrow at Truist Park up in Cobb County, and he'll be in the same stadium as Commissioner Rob Manfred, who made the call to yank the All-Star game from Atlanta. President Trump, as you mentioned, called for a boycott of the sport, of America's pastime, called for retribution for Coca-Cola and some of those other products, other brands, other companies that criticized Georgia for passing this law. So they'll be in the same building. We're not sure if the two men will meet face to face, and even if we'll get access to them if they do. But the very fact that they're going to be in the same building says a lot.
And really quickly, I just wanted to ask you about the tomahawk chop, right? That's potentially on the chopping block. What's the latest there?
Yeah, well, I mean, it continues to spark controversy, especially around the nation. In Atlanta, it's been a mainstay since when I was a kid. But around the nation, whenever people see that chop, it it polarizes folks. And so there's always debate about whether or not Atlanta will continue that tradition. And it's sharply divided the local community here as well.
All right, Greg Bluestein, thank you so much for chatting with us about the nexus between politics and sports. It's always fascinating where those two overlap. Thanks so much.
Thank you.